Thank you for joining Auto Network Reports, and we will have a couple of live presentations today. Well, I say one live presentation. I guess Greg won't be a live presentation. He's just one of the panelists. But we
I am
have on
alive, but
site,
I'm not doing a presentation.
yeah, we have on site at the DC Auto Show, Mr. Dave Bolt, TexGarage.com. We'll be hearing from Dave, and we will do take a look at the Jeep Wagoneer S, an electric vehicle. And as I always say, you can find us on blackpressusa.com. Please subscribe to the panelists, show them some love, some hugs, some kisses. I don't know, what are they doing anything new out there in social media? Have likes and all that gone away? Am I old school? Okay, never
Well,
mind.
probably old school, but I think everyone's so uh, caught up on the newest AI from China that no one's paying attention to that anymore.
Oh, okay.
Well, and
And if you are male, 30 years or older, please make sure you visit your urologist and get that PSA exam. I always say it's that little prick that could possibly save your life. What were you saying, Dave?
well, I was just going to say, when you talk about new media, TikTok, I was just told at lunch today that an acquaintance of mine has seen us on TikTok. And I'll be damned, Roosevelt. I didn't even know we were on TikTok.
I
And
put you on TikTok all the time.
yeah, and I just should plug in, on those occasions that I want to watch myself, I
Yeah.
should plug in.
Well, what I normally do is take a show like this, run it through an AI program. It takes out 20-second, 30-second, 60-second clips. And then I post it to different types of social media, Instagram, TikTok. So it's just clips of things that you say. It's not the whole show.
Does that make us huge in China?
Yeah, we're big
Excellent.
time over there.
Yeah, yeah. Would If I were to visit China, would I be hassled
You'll be a
or
celebrity.
wow? That's awesome. Yeah.
But before we get back to Dave to talk about what he's waiting for to talk about, we have a recall, and Honda is recalling a little over 300,000 vehicles for a software error that could cause the engine to stall. And if you have an Acura MDX, a Honda Pilot, or an Acura TLX Type S, whether you do or not, I always say go to NHTSA.gov, enter your 17-digit VIN number, and see if your vehicle is under recall. If it is, call your local dealer, be nice, set up an appointment, and get that taken care of. So we also have some people in the industry that we've known for years that are retiring. They probably say I should be sitting on the porch myself in a rocker, but like I find this stuff too exciting to go somewhere and rock. But we have Jack Hollis, Toyota's North American COO and head of sales. He retired, and it's interesting. I don't think they're going to find anybody with the sales enthusiasm for a product that Jack has. The guy is just wound up all the time when he's talking about Toyota product or Lexus product. So it's going to be interesting to see. And from what I heard, Mark Templin is replacing Jack. So Mark has some big shoes to fill when it comes to enthusiasm. And Rick Donnell, who I just saw at the Wagoneer S event, and I didn't realize that he was retiring as much as Rick and I talk. But when I got home, I saw, oh, Rick's retiring. So I wish them all the best in whatever they decide to do after they find retiring is work.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know Mr. Hollis. I may have met him, but I don't know him. Rick Deneau, I've known for a number of years. He's
Right.
too young. He's too young to retire.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And to be clear, Roosevelt, both of these gentlemen are retiring with fixed
Yeah.
pensions.
Well, with Jack
Is that
Hollis,
correct?
one of the things you want to consider is
What?
yeah, yeah. But with Jack Hollis, if you read the press release carefully, his resignation was effective immediately. I
Yeah.
think he was sort of forced out, and okay, move template into that because Toyota always has a plan A and a plan B. I would not be surprised if we see Jack Hollis pop up somewhere else within a year.
Well, if he didn't retire on his own, then I agree with you because Jack, from what I know of Jack over the years, he's a extremely knowledgeable and he's a great presenter. And like I said earlier, when it comes to enthusiasm about any particular product that he's involved with, you can't get any more enthusiastic than Jack. So
Yeah, you have to
we'll
sort of
see.
tie him down a few times.
Yeah. Yeah. I go back to maybe Dave Schembri at Mercedes-Benz years ago. Dave had all enthusiasm about the product Mercedes. So, but Jack's right up there. We have a couple of products that manufacturers have decided not to bring to the market like they said they would. And one is the Ram EV, I guess the extended version. They're putting that off until 2026. And Volkswagen has decided not to bring the ID.7 EV to the US. And as you all know, EV sales are either stagnant or slowing down. And I tell the manufacturers this all the time. As a matter of fact, at the Wagoneer event, I was telling them, you all are hyping all the difficult things for people to do to own an EV. I mean, you would think that you would be talking about things that are easy for the customer to do to get into an EV. One is they still talk about so much stress on the range, but I think the worst thing that they can do is talk about you have to have a home charger. That's all you hear about: home charging, home chargers, home chargers, home chargers. And that's another expense for the consumer. Now, everybody doesn't live in a single family dwelling. Everybody, can't have an outlet outside say if you're in public housing, for instance, you can't plug in. But there are millions of other people who live in dwellings where you can just plug the car in outside, whether it's a 110 or 220. We probably have more people now that work from home than we've ever had before. You have a whole group of people who are retired. These people are at home all the time. And to me, if you're home, plug it in. I mean, everybody's wearing, I need a full charge. You don't need a full charge. And I can tell you that from experience. I have taken only one car to a public charger, EV, that I've had. And I'm home most of the time. And when I'm home, I plug it into a 110 plug. 110, not 240. And when I want to drive it the next time, I have more than enough charge to go where I want to go. Now, at some point, I may decide, I want a home charger, but that's not a decision that I have to make right now. I know that you can do that, and you can drive the car and take it anywhere you want. And I know somebody's going to say, I want to go to grandma's house. What'd you say, Greg?
Yeah, people overestimate how much they actually drive every day.
Yeah.
It's been that way for years. Oh, I need a charger because I don't want to run out of charge. Well, how far do you actually drive every day? Well, I go here and I go there, and then you look it up, and they're doing 22 miles.
Right.
And the folks say, well, what if I have to get on the road? You plan that trip out. The same way you plan where you stop for gas, when you're going on a long trip.
It's a different mindset when it comes to EVs. And if you become an owner, you adjust. But I don't want Dave to sit there and try and hold that cell phone in place so that he can talk about the DC Auto Show any longer, because I know his little biceps are strained.
No, actually, this is pretty easy, Roosevelt. But on the subject of charging, one of the last stops I made on the show floor was with Ford, which had the Mach-E Rally on display. This is ostensibly an off-road applicable Mach-E, which may be a bit of a stretch. Don't go boulder hopping in it. but it does give you that kind of gravel road, fire trail capability that a regular Mach-E or most EVs do not have. Plus, it looks pretty neat. But anyway, talking to the Ford PR executive there, she was talking about Ford's Power Plus program, whereby I think it's Power Plus. Anyway, the bottom line is Ford is providing buyers of their Mach-E EV a free home charger installation. It's the wiring, it's the charger itself, it's the whole ball of wax to equip your garage or your home with your charger. And while I wouldn't argue with your 110 aspect, Roosevelt, if you're driving 30 miles a day, you plug in with 110 when you get home. By the time you're ready to drive, you've probably, in 12, 14 hours, you've probably built back that 30 miles you used. So I get that. But if you can do it overnight, which you can with a level 2 240 charger, and that is free to you, that certainly takes one aspect of the anxiety of charging away, which is the $1,000 to $2,000 that you'll spend out of pocket to get your house wired for a level 2 charger. So
But
there's
I
that.
I applaud Ford for doing that, and I think there may be a couple of other manufacturers that will give you funds toward a purchase, but I don't. Ford may be the only one that's doing the whole thing, giving you the charger and the entire installation, which is great.
Yeah, it is great. And on top of that, to my way of thinking, they've got an attractive lineup of EVs. But what's most intriguing about EVs, as you alluded to, the number of manufacturers that are walking back on their EV strategy. You know, a couple of years ago, everyone was going to be all EVs by 2030. Today, that ain't the case. And
Yeah.
there's more and more emphasis on hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and these brands that thought they would be all EV within 2 or 3 model years, they've backtracked completely on that. So, to my way of thinking, that's great because I think those that want EVs know who they are and know what they want. I don't think we need to be um, we don't need to be building cars for a demand that has not yet been realized, is what I think.
Well, why don't you put on your other hat since you've been at the DC Auto Show and talk a little bit about that particular auto show, how it's been in the past, and what you're experiencing now?
Well, like most auto shows, Roosevelt, the press is not emphasized to the degree that they were even 5 years ago. And, part of this is post-pandemic. Part of it is the fragmentation of automotive media. Uh, Part of it is the fact that in DC, since it is Washington, DC, they decide they're going to build this as a public policy show. And rather than emphasizing product intros and automotive media, they're emphasizing those that are on Capitol Hill with a penchant for policy and discussing policy. I've sat through a few of those days, a few of those presentations. I cannot sit through any more. Apparently, there's a lot of buzz with this new administration as to what dealers can expect in this new administration. A lot of speculation as to what would happen with EV incentives or the clean air mandates that were imposed during a Biden administration, that those would just disappear altogether. I think from what I've read recently in the Washington press, it's going to take a little bit longer than that. But I'm told that people connected with the retail side of the industry are absolutely giddy with respect to the prospects for the next 4 years. In terms of the metal, there ain't much new here. Uh, a lot of OEMs have very, very attractive displays that cost a lot of money to put in place. Toyota has trucks, SUVs, uh, you name it, they build it and they've got it displayed. Hyundai has done an awfully good job. Hyundai has one of the few new vehicles on display, their Ioniq 9 crossover EV. Um, it sits kind of like Genesis GV80 sits back on the chassis, very little front overhang, upright but not too upright, and that was an attractive win. On the other side of the timetable is Volvo celebrating 70 years in the US and bringing a 1957 PV544 on display that looks absolutely immaculate. 0 to 60 is 18 seconds, or at least that's claimed on the information. Not a vehicle I'd like to drive, but certainly a nice vehicle to have in the garage and talk about. Beyond that, again, I mentioned the Mach-E Rally, which is new enough that it hasn't been in the DC press fleet yet. Haven't had a chance to drive it. Your Wagoneer S that I know you want to talk about is on static display here and looks to be very attractive. But the bottom line is it's a show that will be fine for consumers that are in the buying aspect or the buying cycle, because they have a chance to compare back to back what it is they might be looking at. But for those of us in the press that are looking for newsworthy spots to grasp, those newsworthy spots are a little bit rare.
I think that the press is going to slowly be removed from media days at the auto shows, and they're going to focus more on, and they should, the consumer. You know, we don't buy a whole lot of cars. You know, we get press cars to drive, but I think that we're going to be pushed to the side, and an example of that is the Chicago Auto Show, which normally would bring in, a sponsor would bring in 50, 60 journalists from around the country, which is probably the least expensive way for them to market and advertise their product because of all the different, hundreds of outlets that these journalists reach. They're going to, they're not going to be there. Right. And on the two events that I just returned from, the journalists that I talked to said that normally they would go to Chicago and they're not going to Chicago. So it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes before, the other big shows stop bringing in media or even having a media day.
Chicago was a unique show in the fact that you had Nissan sponsoring bringing in journalists. We all know about Nissan's financial challenges. And when Nissan withdrew, they just couldn't find another sponsor in time to bring in journalists for the show. Now, I am going to be in Chicago next week because it's also a good way to take the temperature of what the consumer is interested in, what gets their blood boiling. And I do know that at least one manufacturer is going to be showing off, doing some new vehicle reveals. That will be Subaru doing some new vehicle reviews there. So when you think about it, Chicago, a Subaru makes absolute sense. That's the kind of market they want to get into. I think, as we all know, the whole industry is reconfiguring how it tells its story, how it sells its wares, so to speak, to the general public. And they've dipped into streaming. They've dipped into social media. They've dipped into this, that, or the other. Honda, by the way, is doing some very aggressive use of TikTok and Instagram to get messages out about what's going on the Acura side. We should really be thinking in terms of who are they actually reaching there, because you may be able to get X number of views on a particular clip of video, but how many of them are hand raisers or even inquiry about, well, can I walk up to a dealership and, take a look at it? And, something Dave pointed out earlier about the dealer bodies being somewhat happy about the Trump administration coming in, because that means, hey, we don't have to worry about compliance with clean air standards. We don't have to worry about compliance with EV standards. We don't have to worry about compliance with this, that, or the other, because these guys are in the business of making money. And so rather than spending money to support new technology, they'd rather keep doing the same thing over and over again. It's going to be an interesting ride for the next 4 years. And as several people said, let's buckle up because it's going to get wild and crazy. What I suspect will happen is that brands that have not embraced plugins and hybrids in a large way will make that switch over as a way to survive until they figure out what they want to do next as the technology continues to evolve. And one of the brands that needs a plug-in in the worst way is Nissan. They don't have one.
Yeah.
which is utterly amazing given the fact that they were on the forefront of the accessible EV with the Leaf. How many years ago? 15?
At
Something like
least.
Yeah,
yeah.
15 years ago, and
Well,
they
and,
just, they let the ball drop.
and Volkswagen is talking about needing to put more hybrids on U.S. showrooms. Well, my God, folks, it's 2025. Why are you just now awakening to the fact that you need some attempt at efficiency via hybrid or plug-in hybrid in 2025? That ship hasn't sailed. They can still do it, but what took so long? The dysfunction is utterly amazing.
Well, before we run out of time, I at least want you all to take a look at the Jeep, excuse me, the Jeep Wagoneer S. If I can figure out how to make this work, it's been a while. But,
Yeah, we know you're old and you're out of practice.
yeah, I have to.
And Roosevelt, this is a Jeep Wagoneer S, correct?
Beg your pardon?
This is a Jeep Wagoneer S. Jeep is fully embraced with the launch of this, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a Jeep.
600 horsepower.
Yeah,
Now, is this for off-roading or for just putting on the track and saying I
both.
can race my Jeep down the track?
You can do all of the above.
Did you do all of the above?
We did a little off-roading, and we did mostly on the road driving.
Uh-huh. And how does 600 horsepower, what does that feel like, Roosevelt?
It'll pin you to the seat
Yeah.
at any speed. It's really about the torque and not the horsepower. And a
Uh-huh.
lot of people
Yeah, I saw the
get
torque numbers there.
confused. The torque is 617 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds.
That's crazy.
I mean,
That's too fast.
that's unbelievable.
Did you have to visit your urologist
That's
after
almost
the
too
test
fast.
drive?
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, my God.
But it was.
I mean,
Go ahead.
it's beautiful. I mean, it's well done.
Hmm.
Just, I'm just looking at 600 horsepower, 617 pound-feet of torque. What does that do? Or is fuel economy completely forgotten about?
Fuel economy, it's an EV. So it's going to eat up a little electricity.
Well, what is the claimed
Yeah, okay.
range? Is it
300 plus miles.
Okay. And have they given any hints as to what window sticker is going to be?
I think it's somewhere around between 50 and 70,000, I think.
Okay. Okay. The at the Washington show, they did have the new Polestar 3 on display. And while I didn't listen to the walk around, I did look at a window sticker, and it was $93,000.
Yeah.
The price of some of these EVs it's a beautiful car, but if they can deliver this in the 50 to 70 window, that sounds awfully attractive in
Well,
2025.
The challenge has always been with EVs is the initial cost.
Uh-huh.
And the early adopters are the people who are environmentally conscious and have the money to spend. It's not for the everyday driver right now.
Mhm.
And with the not the tariffs, but with the subsidies going away on some of these cars, it's going to be
Incentives.
even harder. Now, one of the things that the senior VP of Stellantis said in his presentation, and I have a link in the comments where you can go back and watch all the presenters, was he said, well, one of the first things we're doing with our product is drop the Monroney by $7,000. I'm saying, why didn't you do that at first? Why wasn't that the first thing you did? Why would you come out with an additional $7,000 and these cars are out of the reach of most of the people anyway?
Right, right.
So I said, that's not a biggie. That's just, to me, that tells the public, hey, you overcharging.
Hmm.
I'm paying too much for this thing. So, but that's why they make the big bucks, I always say.
It's
You
sure an
know,
attractive
that's my reaction
platform.
also. You're going to drop $7,000 off of,
Yeah.
you know, is that $7,000 off the top end vehicle, or is that 7,000 across the board and everything?
That's off. Well, he didn't say across the board. He just said Monroe. I'm in the MSRP, so I'm taking that on to be on some product. And since we were there talking about the Wagoneer, I think it's going to be the Wagoneer.
Is there both a Wagoneer and a Wagoneer S?
We were there just to see the S. This is the
Okay,
EV.
okay, okay. Are there
Yeah,
going to be other
from my
drivetrain
perspective, and
combinations?
this is,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Greg.
What were you saying, Greg? Did we lose Greg? What were you saying, Dave?
Well, I was just
no, I
wondering,
was going
are
to
there
say,
any?
I'm with Dave. Are there going to be other drivetrain combinations, or is this just going to be the standalone EV?
I think they may have thought about that, but everybody's putting the brakes,
I
like
think we may
Dave
have
said,
lost
on.
Dave, but I'm still here.
Oh, okay. But there's a lag. But the manufacturers are putting the brakes on. They're slowing down on EVs. So it's going to be interesting to see. This is a great looking automobile. I think it has something like 45 inches of screens across the dash. Even the passenger has their own screen. The interior is just, it's unbelievable. And this thing will get up and go. It is fast. So you get all the bells and whistles, but it's gonna cost you a pretty penny. Now, one of the things that I didn't like, and I don't know whether in the video was past it or not, I was showing you the rear
I'm just
hatch when
thinking,
you open.
70 to,
Yeah, when you open the rear hatch,
yeah.
the battery cover, the floor is raised something like 4 to 5 inches. So when you're trying to load something in the rear, not only do you have to lift it over the bumper, you have to go up another 4 or 5 inches because the battery cover sits high, which means that the floor is flat up until the second row seats. When you fold the second row seats down, you don't have a flat floor because of the height of the battery cover for the electric battery. But that was the only thing that I found that that was out of place for me.
Did the launch take place in Arizona?
No, that was in California. We were in
Okay,
San
okay.
Diego.
Very good. Okay. Impacted by the fires at all?
No.
Okay, well, good, good.
Well, I take that back. They did have some fires to pop up around the area about 10, 15 miles away that they put out real quick.
Okay, fair enough.
But you didn't get any of the smoke and anything from the LA fires.
Right, right.
But everybody out there was heightened. Their senses were heightened for possible fires. So
Sure, yeah, as they should be.
yeah. But overall, I think the S is going to be a seller for them. Again, I always go back to two things to sell cars. First point of delivery, contact is at the dealership. And I've been in and out of dealerships now for the past 6, 7 months. And when I'm talking about EVs, there's not a lot of interest from the salespeople. And that's what they have an EV in their product line. And what amazed me even more was some of the managers didn't even like the EVs.
Mm-hmm.
So that does not help the sale of any product when you have your first point of contact that's not really interested in moving the product. So
That's right. Yeah, we've got a Kia dealer in this market that advertises aggressively on TV. One of the few Kia dealers that are just seem to be a continual presence. And much of their advertising, 30-second, 60-second spots, it focuses on the Kia EV lineup. And they've got a great EV lineup. and I'd understand why you'd want to talk about it, but I'm not sure why you'd want to talk about it to a broad audience that right now is demonstrating an indifference, at the very least, to EVs. All I can think is the dealership has a bunch of them, and maybe the incentive package to the dealer warrants hyping them in order to move them. I'm not sure. But for the most part, OEMs are hyping EVs because they've got to sell what they're announcing. But at the dealer level, to my way of thinking, you sell what people have an interest in, and that's what you hype. And right now, there doesn't seem to be a lot of enthusiasm for EVs from anybody on any level.
Well, you've been in sales and I've been in sales. Unfortunately, we get product that we may not feel that strong about, but that's our income. When you're selling cars, you're selling cars. And if all you do is push one particular model, you get good in that particular model, and you have a hard time selling anything else when you have a full product line to sell, unless you're in a dealership where the trucks are pretty much separated and you have a truck specialist. But if you're selling anything other than a truck, I always felt that you had to know the other product, because you don't know who's going to come in and want to talk about it.
Right.
And you can't spend time trying to sway them to something else. That just ticks the customer off. Well, he's not interested in what I want to buy. He's interested in what he wants to sell and can possibly make more money on it. So.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm out the door. The customer's out the door.
Yeah.
But it's going to get interesting, because if I look at Stellantis and what they've done with Jeep. Okay, so they finally got their fully electric Jeep. But you still got other nameplates there that you left languishing. What about Chrysler? They got nothing except for a crossover now that's a plug-in. I don't know.
I think
something's going to have to happen one way or another.
I think the industry is really trying to find itself, and it's still suffering from COVID. There was an abundance of people buying cars at full sticker or above with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Inventory was light, so people pretty much bought what the dealer had to sell at the price that the dealer wanted to sell the car at. And it's taken these people a long time to adjust to this new, or the old way of selling cars. Dealer lots are filling up with all types of inventory. Pricing is higher than it's ever been for the cost of a new car.
Mm-hmm.
And if you aren't selling cars, nobody's really making money. And if salespeople can't sell cars, they're not making any money. You mentioned it earlier about what's going to happen with the price of EVs, the tariffs, and the discounts and all of that. That's still up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And you just can't turn around and bring a plug-in into the marketplace. It takes time to produce these products. So.
Especially if you want to get them right.
Yeah.
I mean, but the technology is not foreign to this. The technology is not foreign to a branch like Stellantis. They've been doing it with the Pacifica. And it's like, okay, take the same technology, maybe, and they've done it also with some Jeep brands. Expand that out. But, I'm just a simple-minded guy who sees an opportunity to use existing tech to widen your appeal, and they're not doing it.
Well, I have always said that with all these different products that the manufacturers have out there, the new manufacturers moving into the space with, say, EVs, I don't think that there is enough experienced engineers available to handle all of that. And I think as a result, you're seeing the manufacturers having problems with producing cars. Yeah, you may have the robots and all of that. You still have to have human brain power to make all of this work. And I don't think we have the experienced automotive engineers out there that can handle all of this.
Well, yeah, when you cite Honda having a software recall, Yeah.
Yeah.
And you think if anyone could figure out software, it would be the Japanese. It would be Honda.
Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I saw something today that
go ahead.
I saw something today that just made me realize, brought home to me that none of these guys are infallible. It was announced today that the next edition of the Tesla 3 will finally come with Apple CarPlay. Gee, what does that say to you? For all their advanced technology, they forgot something simple like Apple CarPlay.
Well,
so none of these guys are infallible.
One of the biggest dings that car companies get from consumers on the CSI rating is how the consumer rates the manufacturer is infotainment systems.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you would think with all the experience with cell phones and computers, you would think that you could easily transfer that knowledge into cars. But guess what? It ain't easy because they haven't been able to do it.
Every showroom, and the luxury brands, I think, are doing this, but every showroom should have the equivalent of an Apple Genius on the showroom, giving the pre-delivery instruction to each and every customer. And if it takes 2 hours, it takes 2 hours. Just let the customer know that rather than the 2 hours in an F&I office getting your brains bashed, we're going to spend 2 hours telling you how the car operates. The last purchases my wife and I have made, I'm thinking it was about 20 minutes, and they handed the keys to us. Thankfully, my wife is one that will dig into the owner's handbook or the CD to get an idea of what the infotainment system is like. I don't do that, have no inclination to do that, but she thankfully does. But new customers need far better indoctrination on a car's technical capabilities than they're getting from the current setup.
Well, Chrysler has had Uconnect for years. I think this is Uconnect version number 5 now or somewhere up there. And I was talking to them about Uconnect. And they didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about Uconnect. Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest area where they get, like I said, they get dinged by the consumer is on that kind of technology. And if you know this, you would think that you would spend some time on it.
Right.
But that's not the mindset. That is just not the mindset. But anyway, we've run a little over time here. Go ahead, Greg. Final comment?
I'm saying it's just we've always done it this way mentality.
Yeah. No, you haven't. But anyway, I want to thank all of you who watched the live presentation Auto Network Reports. I especially want to thank the panelists for taking the time out of their busy schedule to join in this conversation. And I hate, folks, that we always go back to EVs all the time, but it just irks me when you have so many people who are trying to poo-poo something that they should be driving in the first place. But that's just my personal opinion. And as Dave says, Roosevelt, it's your show.
It is, Roosevelt.
But please show the panelists some love, subscribe to their social media sites. And as always, please buckle up, don't drink and drive. Buckle up, don't text and drive. See you next time. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend. Be safe.
Be safe.